Left-wing groups in California are launching an insurrection. Coming up, we have details on how these political groups funded with your state taxpayer money are planning to thwart Trump's administration and actively undermine ICE and Border Patrol as they try to enforce federal law. Could some of these groups be charged with federal crimes? We've got the details coming up. I'm Carl DeMaio, chairman of Reform California and a California state representative representing District 75 in the California State Assembly. Everyone remembers the big brouhaha that Democrats made of January 6th. All the Trump supporters showing up, protesting, sharing their views, and of course, the media described all of it as this rebellion, this insurrection, and a lot of people went to jail for a very long time. Now, no matter where you stand on that debate, we now see something very similar occurring, although I would argue we saw very similar activities with BLM and a variety of riots and protests prior to J6. But in California, a network of left-wing political groups are launching what could easily be described as an insurrection. And these groups are funded with your taxpayer money. They are being encouraged by state and local political leaders. They are actively out there interfering with federal law enforcement actions. They are trying to aid and abet criminals in evading the law. They are harboring and shielding criminals. Again, they are also funded with your state taxpayer money. And so I would argue that state government, local government, the politicians that vote to give grants and contracts to these groups are aiding and abetting as a matter of funding policies. We've got the details about what's going on. But before we start, recognize that California is ground zero in the fight to secure our border. That if we don't secure our border in California, the nation will not have a secure border. Trump can only do so much by changing federal policy, and he's doing a wonderful job about that, signing executive orders, empowering Border Patrol and ICE to do their job. But in California, if our politicians continue to fund left-wing groups to impede ICE and Border Patrol, if they continue to dangle the carrot of free taxpayer-funded welfare handouts to illegal immigrants, they're going to incentivize all these people to continue to come. If they continue to have a sanctuary state law, it means that local law enforcement will have their hands tied when it comes to working with federal law enforcement to keep our communities safe. And that's why at Reform California, we are leading the fight to secure our border by changing California's open border policies. Go to our website, reformcalifornia.org, reformcalifornia.org, click under our campaigns and look up our border security initiative. It is an initiative to repeal the sanctuary state law, eliminate the taxpayer-funded welfare handouts to illegal immigrants, and require that state and local government, law enforcement agencies actively cooperate with federal law enforcement in securing our border. This is what we call cross-deputization. And we have an actual initiative that would require these three things, that would implement these three important reforms so that we can help the federal government secure our border. Without these changes, we're not going to have a secure border. Go onto that website, check out our California Secure Borders Initiative. I've introduced this law in the state legislature, but I am not at all expecting the Democrats to pass my law. That's why we have to be prepared to take this to the ballot in the 2026 election, making an issue in candidate races for state assembly, state senate, governor, up and down the ticket, but also putting it on the ballot in the form of a ballot initiative. Go onto the website, reformcalifornia.org, check it out, share it with your friends. Please, if you want to help us fight to secure the border by changing California's sanctuary state laws and ending the illegal immigrant handouts that we give at state taxpayer expense, do two things. Sign up at the bottom of that website, reformcalifornia.org. Scroll down to the bottom, first name, last name, email, phone, and zip code. That links you to our growing movement statewide on this border security issue and a number of other issues like voter ID, protecting Prop 13, ending the Democrat supermajority, restoring sanity in our state. Get part of our movement by signing up. You'll get an email once a week with all the details about all of our campaigns across the state and in your area. Also, please chip in a contribution. We receive no government money like these left-wing groups I'm about to describe. We rely on contributions from people like you. Chip in whatever you can right now at reformcalifornia.org. All right, so this is what's happening right now. We've got California liberal Democrats wanting to have an open border because they know that their bad policies have hurt so many residents that people are fleeing. And as residents flee, particularly residents with disposable income who actually can contribute tax dollars to fund government programs, as we see the makers out there fleeing, we're left with just the takers. And so the Democrats realize that they are sitting on top of a Ponzi scheme. They've got to continue to recruit people into the state population-wise, and they know that no one wants to move into California from across the other states. And we have millions of people fleeing out of the state because they can't afford to live here, they can't stomach living here. So I've said this for a long time. With California's dramatic population decline among citizens, Democrat politicians know that the only way they can prop up this failed state is to have an open border and bring non-citizens in. And that's, they've been crowing about this for the last, year, that the mass exodus numbers seem to stabilize so that we were now breaking even on people moving in and people moving out. But the only way we stabilized was the million people who came in over the last 3 years illegally into the state of California. That's right, 1 million illegal immigrants in through California's border during the Biden administration. Even the media says California population is finally rebounding. Not rebounding, it's just for the past year stabilizing. Trump could change that. What they're saying in the media, what they're concerned about is the fact that he's going to secure the border so no new people can come in, and that he is looking at deporting criminals from our state, which is a policy widely supported by Californians and nationally by Americans. Now, what are they doing? Not only are politicians funding free legal aid for illegal immigrants to stay in this country to fight the federal government in deportation proceedings, and they're giving that money to people with felony criminal backgrounds that have committed violent crimes. But now they are suing the federal government. The state's suing the federal government, but also the ACLU. Here's the headline just from this week. ACLU sues Department of Homeland Security over immigration raid in Kern County. They are basically telling the federal government, don't do your job. That's like saying I'm going to sue a district attorney who's prosecuting someone who's murdered a community member. I don't want you to do this. I'm going to sue you. There's no basis for the lawsuit, but it will slow things down. And they have no shame. Their view is we should have an open border. Let's call it what it is. And that's why I say ACLU is a fringe left-wing group. They're not about our freedoms or our rights. They're certainly not about citizens' freedoms and rights. They are an extremist group that no longer are tethered to the notion of freedom. But other groups are out there getting state funding and local funding. There's a coalition called Community Self-Defense Coalition. And I've got to say, this coalition name is laughable. It's hypocritical because Democrats are trying to ban your right of self-defense by passing AB 1333. We talked about this extremist bill a few days ago on the podcast, where you'll no longer be able to defend yourself under California state law if this bill passes, Assembly Bill 1333, that you actually might be prosecuted if you kill someone who is trying to attack you or breaking into your home. Again, you have a constitutional right that's been established by the Supreme Court called the Castle Doctrine that says if someone breaks into your home, if someone attacks you, you have a right to defend yourself in your home. The Castle Doctrine. AB 1333 would eliminate your right of self-defense. It would basically say, well, you better just roll over and take it, because if you try to fight back, we might prosecute you. If you try to fight back against a criminal to defend yourself in California, you might be made the criminal. So they call themselves the Community Self-Defense Coalition. And of course, these are a bunch of liberal Yahoo blank hats who don't give a rip about your right of self-defense. No. They want to undermine ICE. A new anti-ICE group based in Los Angeles called the Community Self-Defense Coalition is training members on how to interfere with ICE operations. Interfering with federal law enforcement? How is this not an insurrection? It's at the very least aiding and abetting. So, and by the way, their coalition, we looked them up. Many of the groups that are part of their coalition, funded by your state and local taxpayer money. Here it is.
We are training the members of the coalition to do these patrols. We've been doing the patrols for years in Los Angeles and San Diego, but yesterday we had more than 150 people combing through the streets of Los Angeles looking for any ICE activity. And early in the morning, we found 2 operations, and luckily we were able to defend those 2 communities from those ICE raids.
Oh, we're defending communities from ICE raids. Who's the target of the ICE raids? People with violent criminal records. The Trump administration has made it quite clear they're prioritizing deporting people with criminal records, people who are a risk to the community, people who are committing crimes. This left-wing extremist, funded by your state taxpayer money, because you'll find out in a minute, he's a government employee. He's a government employee. You can't make this crap up. They're funding extremism with your taxpayer money. Government employee, his organizations are largely funded by your state and local taxpayer money. And he's saying, we're going out there to interfere with ICE as they're trying to deport criminals who represent a risk to the community, but we're the ones safeguarding the community. No. If you wanted to do something helpful, those 150 people should be out there trying to clean up graffiti, try to get homeless people off the street, do something productive. But no, you're out there trying to impede federal law enforcement agents.
So tell me a little bit about what is working, because you are patrolling these communities. What's working? What isn't working? And how is the...
By the way, the liberal reporter here is so in the tank for this guy. And she doesn't ask the question like, so you're interfering with federal law enforcement agents? Do you think that's appropriate? Or she doesn't even ask, do you think that this is constituting insurrection because you're actively going against law enforcement agents doing their jobs? No. She says, tell us what's working. Boy, it sounds like a great idea. Tell us about your best practice handbook.
Community responding to you patrolling the streets?
What's working are the patrols. We're in every neighborhood of Los Angeles. This morning already, we have combed through dozens of communities of Los Angeles looking for ICE activity. We do this at 5:30 in the morning because we know that's when ICE starts their operations. So before they can go and attack our community, we are looking for them. And when we find them, we alert people with megaphones.
Okay. Can you imagine the nuisance of someone in your neighborhood at 5:30 in the morning with a big megaphone? I actually think some of this will backfire. Because what you'll find, just like when they shut down the freeways a few weeks ago, snarled up traffic, people got really ticked off. And I said at the time, this is going to backfire on them. And it did. A lot of Democrat voters in LA were like, wait a minute, we're dealing with fires and you guys just literally shut down our freeways? Read the room, buddy. Not a good idea. But you're out there at 5:30 in the morning with a megaphone waking people up. Before ICE can attack our community. Again, it's reprehensible how this extremist far-left activist is describing what ICE is trying to do, which is trying to protect our communities. He says that ICE is attacking the communities. Again, narrative driving, a false narrative that this reporter is not challenging.
That works. The megaphones wakes up the people. They let them know what's happening. And they also let ICE know that we're there and we're not going to leave. We're going to defend our community. We have the legal right to do so. Everything we're doing is legal.
No, it's not legal when you're aiding and abetting criminals escaping law enforcement. You're tipping them off. You're warning them. This is interference. Everything we're doing is legal. No, it's not. You're literally trying to undermine the apprehension of someone with a criminal record who's in this country unlawful and should not be in a neighborhood where they can recommit crimes.
We don't intend to break any laws. We are there to defend our community, and more people are joining this cause.
No, they're not, buddy. No, that's a false narrative. See, this is how they try to normalize their bad behavior. More and more people agree with us. Everyone agrees with us. No. The polling is overwhelming. People do not support keeping illegal immigrants with violent criminal records in this country. They support what Trump is trying to do to secure the border as well.
Now you have up to 50 organizations that are part of the self-defense coalition.
Yeah, 50 organizations part of the self-defense coalition. Again, funded with your taxpayer money, largely funded with your taxpayer money. These are all left-wing groups on the dole. We're funding extremism in the state of California.
But I did want to ask you, Ron, we are just really 1 month into a 4-year administration. Is it feasible and sustainable to keep this up for the next 4 years? And how do you keep that momentum?
We've been doing this for decades because our communities have been under attack by every administration since we can remember. This is nothing new. So we're going to continue to organize in our communities. And now we're training people, not just in Los Angeles, we're training people in Chicago, Denver, Salt Lake City. These community patrols are growing. And so what's happening in Los Angeles is working. Yesterday, we were able to successfully defend the communities. This morning, we are doing that, and we're going to continue. We're workers. I'm a teacher by profession, so I can't do it during the day.
Yeah. I can't do it during the day because he's so busy, filling our kids with all sorts of left-wing nonsense. I'm a teacher by profession. I'm on the government dole. I got my big fat pension, and I'm in the classroom making sure that these kids know that they got to become socialists. And then throughout the rest of the time, I'm out there organizing left-wing groups as part of an insurrection, interfering with federal law enforcement.
Early in the morning I can, and after work I can. So we're going to do everything possible to defend the communities in a legal way, but in a way that people throughout the country can replicate.
And, I think that it's important to mention right now that we did reach out to ICE for comment. They declined to provide a comment for us.
Oh, we reached out to ICE and they declined to provide a comment, as though ICE is trying to hide something. Now, they know that they're not going to get a fair shake. They will not get a fair shake with liberal news media. They're going to go out there and they're going to do their job. And they're going to do their job despite the effort of these left-wing groups to interfere and aid and abet criminals. Look, at Reform California, we want to cut off the funding from these left-wing groups, and we want to cut off the funding, the handouts to illegal immigrants that draw them here in the first place. It facilitates human trafficking. As a matter of state policy, California's state policy is to have an open border and facilitate human trafficking and aid and abet the harboring of criminals. If you disagree with this, we have to change state and local policy in California. It's not enough just to get President Trump to change federal policy. The battle is on the streets in the state of California. We are ground zero for this. And that's why at Reform California, we have got to advance the border security initiative, the California Secure Borders Initiative that I introduced, and make it an issue in the upcoming election. The election is a midterm. I believe this is an issue that will motivate even independent voters to our side. But we need gas in the tank to put forward this sort of fight. Go to the website, reformcalifornia.org, share the information on our California Secure Borders Initiative, chip in a contribution, and sign up at the bottom of that webpage. Until next time, I'm Carl DeMaio, Chairman of Reform California. Thanks for watching, and I hope you enjoyed this episode. But before you click away, please subscribe to this channel and click that notification button so you get updated when we post new episodes. Plus, like this video and share it with your friends so that we can help spread our message across the state. Reform California with Carl DeMaio is paid for by Carl DeMaio for State Assembly.